Okay, so we are going to go over how to use AKCIS and how to build a resume on AKCIS. So to get into AKCIS, you can type akcis.org into your search bar, and it will direct you to this page here. Now, once you are here, you can see that there is a login screen on the left-hand side of the page. And there is also a number that if you have any questions or you need help with AKCIS, you can call 1-800-441-2962 and pick option 3. And this is very helpful if you have a login that maybe you used for a school or other program and you would like to get back into that so that you don't have to repeat that information on your new account. So go ahead and utilize this number, or you can email this email address as well. So it is an expectation that you are able to log in and complete your AKCIS profile and resume creator on AKCIS before you meet with me. So let's go ahead and talk about how we log in. So if you don't have an account, you're going to pick log in with your zip code. It's also down under the username and password, log in with your zip code, or you can also try forgot username or password if you have an account, but you're not quite sure what the username or password is. So we're gonna go ahead and pick the city or town that we live in. So I'll go ahead and pick Anchorage here. You'll put your zip code in. And now you see that we're into AKCIS. And simply by logging in with your zip code, you can explore the website and all of the different assessments that are on here, information about different occupations, information about different training programs, and some information about job search and job success. You will see that there's not an option right now for us to create a resume. We need to create a portfolio for us to be able to do that. So this, again, you can sign in with your username and password if you have access to those, or if you've never created an account, you can go ahead and just click Create My Portfolio. So then you will go ahead and enter all of this information. So we'll put Sally Sue. And then you would pick some security questions. So you would pick from this list of what is the last name of your best friend in high school? So maybe it was Baker. And then let's see here. Favorite place to visit as a child. Let's say the zoo. So whichever makes sense to you so that you can gain access to your account if you ever lose your account. Okay, so this, my portfolio access page, is important if you were a part of an organization with your account, so a school or a different program where somebody needed to be able to track your progress on AKCIS. And at this point for me, I don't have a way to see your progress as you're working through AKCIS. So you can either click yes if you would like, anybody in the future to be able to see this if you become part of a training program or other organization which needs this, or no, you don't want anybody to view your comments. So, all right, here we are. I've got Sally here. So we have, again, this home screen, but you can see that I am logged in. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over to employment. We're gonna go down to resume creator. We're gonna click on that. So this will be the tool that we will be using for our resumes throughout this whole process. So you can see here, the resume creator is an area where you can enter and save your employment and educational history. Once you enter your information with a few clicks of the mouse, you can select one of 4 different resume styles or build your own, choose what information you wish to include, and then generate a professional looking resume. The information you enter into this section can be printed and thus useful when filling out job application and reference forms. So this is going to be your main screen. Say you want some more information about how to use this resume creator. There are some video tutorials of how to create a resume, and there's also a printable quick start guide of the resume creator. So this will give you some bare bones information of everything that you need to know about this as well if you are interested in looking at this resume creator sheet. So let's go ahead and get started with education and training. So this will be the section that we'll use to list our educational institutions that we attended, beginning with the most recent. So you would list college before high school, or if you have a GED program, and then some history from the high school, whatever is most recent. So let's go ahead and add a school. Now I have Krista here, and I'm going to use this example resume to input our information into the resume creator. Now you may have a resume already that is like this, or maybe it's one that you used years and years ago. So this can be really helpful in going ahead and remembering what exactly those specific dates were that you attended the school or the training program. But it is important to realize that even if you have a resume like this, you still need to complete the AKCIS resume, because this here will house all of your information. You can come back, you can update your information, and it will always be here for you. This is a requirement of HPOG. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's see what our education history is. So Baltimore Central High School. You can see here the ones that are marked with these 2 little asterisks are the required fields. Okay, so end date 2007. Let's say 6/01/2007. And there is additional information that you can include, and the more information, the better. You will sort out which information you want to include in your resume later on. So let's go ahead and save this. Oh, start date is required, so good to know. So let's do 08/01 and 4 years from 2007. Let's say, whoops, 2004. Okay, so let's save that information. So now you can see that your educational history will be housed in here. You can add another school if you have more information to add. We can see that there are licenses and certifications. So let's go ahead and put bloodborne pathogens. And basic life support. First aid as well. And all of those are things that you will be receiving in the Path Academy if you have not already been through the Path Academy. So we can see here now we have our certificates. Let's go down to licenses or to workshops and training. So use this section to document short-term workshops and training programs. Now, this would be something where you could put the Path Academy in there. And you might put that you started on the 7th and you went to the following Friday. So that would be the 14th. So then you might put your trainings here. So you could put 40-hour pre-employment training in including medical terminology, professionalism, body systems, and so on and so forth. Whatever you would like to include in this section. Now you can also repeat the certificates down here to have them be associated with this training. Save that information. Now, standardized tests. If you have work keys or if you have any other standardized test, then you can input that information here. So you can either select it or you can enter your own name, the test status, the date, and the results as well. So that will conclude the education and training section. So let's go ahead and enter your work and volunteer experience. So this is going to be your work history section. You're going to list all of your work experiences beginning with your most recent employer. And you may also want to include summer, temporary, or part-time work. So I suggest thinking about how much work history you have. You don't need to include every job that you've ever done, but most people go back within 10 years and they pick out the most relevant work history to put on their resume. Now, in this situation, we can add every single thing that you've done for work history and volunteer service because we're going to go ahead and pick and choose which things are going to be most relevant to the job that you're going to apply for. So begin with your most recent employer and work your way back with all of the jobs that you've had and include those seasonal or temporary or part-time jobs as well. So let's add in an employer here. So we might say Maryland Hospital. And you're going to need to put the start date. So maybe you started in 2013 and you've been working there ever since. And now again, remember that if there is an R, that is required, or if there are these little asterisks that are in red, that's required, but you are welcome to fill out everything if you know that. So let's say patient technician, and you would put in the duties that you did. So what things you were responsible for, highlights and accomplishments, and maybe a reason for leaving. So let's see here. I have this pulled up. So I'm going to copy and paste a couple of these duties that we have here and put them here. You might list your highlights and accomplishments and then your reason for leaving. So let's go ahead and save that. And this is any volunteer community service work that you've done. So this is absolutely something that you can include on your resume. If you have engaged in any unpaid work, even caregiving for family members or other people in the community that was unpaid work, that would certainly count as well. And then you can also include any military service if that applies to you. So let's go ahead and do achievements. So in this section, you can document significant achievements, recognitions, or professional memberships. So it will have a drop-down list, but if you don't, you can enter your own. So you can see here, we have an award or recognition, and you can describe what this was. Salesperson of the month, February 2012. So now you see that you can list these achievements. Next, these are activities in which you gained or demonstrated specific skills. So this might include something that you did in high school if you are a recently graduated individual and you want to highlight some of those athletics, clubs, or community service that you did, or any number of activities. So it doesn't necessarily need to be related to school. It could also be connected to a religious or community organization or something that you initiated yourself. So these are more short-term experiences, and the volunteer work and community service section is geared towards documenting longer-term community service experiences. So activities are more short-term, and that community service under unpaid work would be a longer-term activity. Okay, and then next we have skills. So in this section, you can document specific skills that you have. Areas include languages, software products, equipment, anything that makes you qualified for the position that you're seeking over another individual. So maybe you have great typing skills, or you are fluent in Spanish or another language. So you can see here that when you can read this note that if you enter or use the return key to separate text in the description field. The information will display as a bulleted list on your resume. And so that wraps up our achievements, activities, and skills section. You can see here, you might pick software skills, and then maybe you say competent with Microsoft Excel or another software. All right, so next we'll talk about contact information and references. So we have Sally Sue, that's our personal information here. So we're gonna edit this. So if we want to include our middle name, we are definitely going to include an address, the city, the state, the zip code, and our phone number, because that is how our employer is going to be able to reach us. Let's go ahead and save that. All right, so we've got all of our personal information here. Next, we're going to pick some references. So many employers will ask for references when you apply for a job. You should always ask that person if they're willing to be a reference for you. You should include people that you have worked with or for, and people that can describe your skills and abilities in a positive light. You may want to include others who can attest to your work ethic, flexibility, and ability to learn new things, such as coaches or teachers. So ideally, you should have at least 3 references, and those references should be professional references. So again, think of those community or volunteer experiences. If you do not have any job experience, where you might be able to get a professional reference. And then last would be those personal references, where they could attest to your personal character, but those aren't going to be as strong as those professional references. And that's what we're really, really looking for. So we're really looking for somebody that was either your supervisor or a coworker. So you can see here we have a list. So maybe Bill Bobby was our supervisor at Maryland Hospital, and he was the patient tech coordinator. And I would try to get a good address for him. I would also try to get a good phone number for him and a good email. Okay, so we're going to save this information here. So next, we're going to go ahead and create our resume. And I am going to fill out a few more fields in the resume creator and then come back and show you how we are going to format and create our resume once all of our information is updated in AKCIS. Okay, so we're here in our Create Resume section. So we are going to select a few options. So you can read here that you have several options for formatting your resume. First, you can select from one of the 4 styles, which are recent grad, accomplishment, chronological, or functional skills. Click on the example next to each style to see the data sections that will be included and the order of the data. If you select one of the styles, you will still have the option to exclude or reorder some of the data. So let's say here you are a recent grad, and that sounds like a good option. So let's look at this sample here. So a recent grad resume is going to have your contact information, objective, summary of qualifications, where you went to school, any trainings that you've done, your experience. It's going to include that activities section, achievements, skills, and then you can have your references on there as well. Now, you can click through each of these and see which one seems like it would fit best with your experience. I will say most people should pick either a chronological resume or a functional resume. So a chronological resume is going to list all of your experience, and this is going to be your classic resume where you have what you were, so accounting clerk 1, and what you did in that position. Machine forming operator, what you did in that position. Now, a functional resume will look a little bit different because instead of listing what position and what you did, you're going to list your experience down here in not a detailed way. You're just going to say, I was a store clerk from these dates to this date at this place. And you could also include Anchorage, Alaska, or wherever that job was located. Now, your skills and interests are going to be where you're going to put the bulk of everything that you are able to do for your employer. So let's just take a moment to think about why we might use this functional skills resume over a chronological resume. So if you have a lot of healthcare experience, like Sally Sue in our example, where you are a patient care technician for 7 years, and maybe you've been a receptionist before that, or you've worked in healthcare in another capacity before that, then you're going to have a really strong chronological resume because somebody's going to be able to see your objective is to be a full-time employment as a certified nursing assistant. And then they're going to look at your experience and they're going to say, hey, yeah, they've been a patient care tech, they've been a receptionist, great. All of these things apply to the job at hand. But now let's think about full-time employment as a certified nursing assistant, and we have the same experience as Gail here. So maybe you are trying to be a certified nursing assistant, and your experience says accounting clerk 1, machine forming operator, machine tool cutting operator, setup operator. Well, the employer is going to ask themselves, how is this person qualified to be a CNA? All of their experience is in mechanical operations and in accounting. I don't see how any of this applies to this job at hand. So if your experience lies outside of the realm of healthcare, what you want to do is to create the functional skills-based resume so that you can highlight your summary of skills here, and maybe your summary of skills includes graduated from certified nursing assistant program in June of 2020. Great communication skills. You've worked with people your whole life, even though you've been in truck driving or in accounting or in whichever field. You are going to find all of the ways in which your jobs that you've worked at before are similar to this job that you're trying to get now. So in your summary of skills, this is going to be at the top 3 or 4 things that you want your employer to know about you, that are the most relevant things that you have to the position that you are applying for. And then in your skills section, you are going to list communication, problem solving, administrative skills, computer skills, accounting skills, whichever categories apply to you. So you'll take all of the experience that you've ever had and you will group them into categories. So maybe administrative skills if you've worked in an office, but it wasn't a healthcare office. And then you might say, greeted customers and you handled cash and payments, or you de-escalated any situations in which customers were upset, or you answered questions for customers. All of those things you have to do in healthcare, and all of those things you did while you were working in administrative roles. Then you'll list those specific jobs below and that education. So what we'll do is we'll create a functional skills resume for Sally Sue. And instead of listing our references, we are going to use the statement, references available upon request. We're going to click next. You'll see here that there's an objective, and our objective statement is, what job do we want? Seeking a position as a certified nursing assistant at Alaska Assisted Living Facility. So you would put the specific employer there. Now your summary of skills, this person has a professional summary, but your summary of skills, again, are going to be the very first top 5 skills that you want to show your employer, that even if you don't have exactly the experience doing the job that you will be doing, you have the skills to do the job. So we have now our sections down below. So we have skills, licenses and certifications, work history, educational history, workshops and training, and military service. So you can pick whether or not you are going to include these sections. So maybe military service doesn't apply to you, so we're not going to pick that. Maybe we want to put licenses and certifications after work history. So let's go ahead and put work history and then licenses and certification, education history, and then workshops and trainings. Maybe we'll put education as the last. So you can title your resume. And it's nice to put a date on it. Okay, and now this is a very important section. So select output format. RTF will create a Microsoft Word or Open Office document where you can further edit your resume. You want to select RTF because you want to be able to edit your resume further once you download it. So when you download it, you are going to be saving it to your computer, or you can save the resume to My Portfolio. So let's save that resume. And when we click open, it will download. So now we have it saved and downloaded. So let's open this up and see what this looks like. Okay, so you can see we have a really good base for all of the information that we put in here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and say enable editing so that I can play around with this. And then we are going to just go ahead and format this to however we like. So I will come back in just a second and you will see the result here. Okay, guys, so This is something that I would expect to see before you guys meet with me, so it doesn't have to be perfect. But as you can see here, we have a full resume happening, and we have all of the information that we need for the most part. So you can see this larger page view. So we have all of the contact information here. We have an objective statement, seeking a position as a CNA at an Alaska living facility. We have a summary of skills where we say skilled professional with over 7 years of experience in healthcare, certified nursing experience with training in geriatric care, managed a high volume workload technician for 12 patients per day, positive and helpful individual determined to increase client satisfaction. So this is we're really selling ourselves in this section. We've moved on to experience here. We've got some experience that we've written down as far as work experience goes. As you can see here, one of the things that we will work on is really trying to get those details in your description of what you did. So, helped residents with daily hygiene, including showering, oral and pericare, incontinent care, minimizing rashes, sores, and soiling. So, that is very specific. And as you can see up here in this patient technician role, we really have a great idea of what you did, but filed papers, answered phone, greeted patients. I don't really have a whole idea of what you did in this position. So I would really encourage you to take a look at some of the example resumes and think about how you can expand on those duties that you did in your job. Certificates. We have all of the certificates. You will want to put the date that they expire. If it is something like first aid, mental health first aid, if it is still good right now, you can put expired. If, say, maybe you have an EMT certification previously, and you could put that. Or if you have a certificate that doesn't expire, actually, so for example, bloodborne pathogens doesn't have an expiration date. Now that you could put the date that you received and the date. Next is workshops and training. So again, you want to be really specific about what the Path Academy was, what you learned in this Path Academy, and really highlight some of those skills that you can use to better sell yourself to your employer. So medical terminology, professionalism, think of anything that we went over that will be helpful in the job that you are trying to get. Education, we have our the name of the place, where it was, when you went there, and what you got. So one thing is for the high school, you don't have to put the dates that you went into high school. You can leave those out. If you think that it ages you, absolutely, you can leave it out. It doesn't really matter. When you went to college, if you have a degree, a certificate, or any sort of college credit, then you should put those dates there though. And you should also put here whether or not you received a high school diploma. So let's just put high school diploma here. And then we have references. References are available upon request. If you need to save space, you can take that out because references, it is assumed they are available upon request. And your references should not be included within your resume. So you can see here we've got a really, really great start to a resume. And then together we can really work on getting all of these wording right, making sure that you are presenting yourself in the best light. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me and I can get back to you. If you want a review of your resume, just a very rough draft review, feel free to email it to me and I'll email you back a few notes.
All right. So good luck, everybody. And thanks so much. I will see you soon.